Hi guys, so welcome back. I just wanted to jump on here really fast just to show you all how I actually wrap my skinny tumblers. I know that has been a question that has been asked many times and people want to see it wrapped from beginning to end, so I just wanted to get on here really fast, although I think I may have shown this on several other videos. I know I sped through them, so this time I am going to just simply show you how I wrap my tumblers from top to bottom, so that way there's no ghosting and there's no seam. So starting off, I have my tumbler, obviously. I take a microfiber cloth. This is actually a chalk couture cloth. It's a fuzzing cloth, so one side is fuzzy, the other side is like this really soft type material. I just use that to wipe off my tumblers just to make sure that there's no fuzz on here or anything. Usually I will go through with like a alcohol wipe, but I ran out of those, so that's what I use. And then again, like I stated before, you want to make sure that you measure your tumblers. Let me show you how I measure mine, because that's another question that people always ask. So let me show you. Sorry, I got a little heater down here. It's cold in this room, and then I have the fan on too, so it's funny. But what I normally do is I will take my measuring tape and I just line it up exactly to the top of that. Try to make it flush. Let me turn this around this way. I try to make it flush to the top of that, so just hold down onto it there, make sure it's there, and then just pull it tightly all the way to the end. So make sure that the top is still flush. If it moves, just pull it up. And then, don't mind him. He's mad I went to Dunkin' Donuts and didn't get him anything. So yeah, I hold it up here to the top and then pull it all the way down very tightly just to see where it like ends, like right here, kind of like where it curves at the bottom. And it's listed as like 8.1. So what I always do is I end up I always put in 0.1 more than what it measures here. So for my length or my height, I would put 8.2. And then as far as the width of it, what I normally do is just take one spot. Sorry, my girls are in school, so I have to have my phone off of silent so that way I can hear if I get any phone calls or anything. So excuse the noise in the background. But yeah, so here it shows like 9.2, so we can see that. Like I said, I always do 0.1 more than what it is, so I always put 9.3. So this, what I actually measured for my wrap, is 9.3 wide by 8.2 high. And so then when I go to wrap it, I always turn my tumbler over to where the open spot is at the top. Turn it over. And then what I like to do, you can't see my screen, so let me go ahead and move this down some so you can see it. Hopefully that's better. Yes. So I have my tumbler turned over, and then I take my design and I flip it over to where this is obviously going to be the top of it. And I just place this on the table. And you want to try to just hold this part wherever you're at. Always try to hold the front and the back as tight as I can and pull this as tight as you can. So then that way when you see now it's flush with the top up here, and it's pretty much flush with the bottom. It's exactly flush with the bottom down there. So that's what I look for when I do my tumblers. And as you can see on my actual paper down here, I left a little bit of a white strip down at the bottom, just so that way it doesn't sublimate and go up under the cup. I just left that down there. So that's how I do that. And then you can see, if you look closely, you can see there's not much. Let me see if I can get up closer so you all can see it. There's not much of an overlap there. That's what you want. You don't want much of an overlap, because then that causes it to be more of like a seam there. ghosting happens and all that stuff. So this is how I actually wrap it. I pull it really tight, and then I take my tape, and I usually try to start here. Okay, get it off my finger. Start at the top there, and then I work my way down. Now usually what I do sometimes is I'll pull a very long string of tape, but for this video purpose I'm just going to go ahead and just do it this way. And you want to make sure that again it's still tight. And you simply just fold that down at the bottom, fold that down there, and now you have it on there, and it should be pretty tight. Usually you can tell if it's not tight enough when you go to squeeze it like this. You can probably see like little bubbles or folds back this way. If that's the case, just simply undo your tape and pull it as tight as you can. But that's simply what I do there. Then what I do is I take my nail, or the lack thereof that I have right now, and just go down that seam where that tape is. Just go straight down that seam and just rub my nail there, just to make sure that that is nice and smooth. No air pockets are there, so that way it eliminates any ghosting that may occur right there. And I just rub that down, just make sure that's nice and smooth. And then what I do is, this is when I normally take just like a long strip, and then according to however like my paper, wherever it overlapped, if it overlapped going this way, that's the angle that I follow as far as how I tape it. So since my overlap is going this way, I'm going to tape it this way. And let me show you just how I start my tape. See here, this is how I start my tape. I always leave just half of the tape on the actual design on the paper, and then the other half is hanging over. And then I'm going to wrap that, pull that pretty tightly, hold that down, pull it pretty tightly. Now what I have learned is sometimes you can pull too tight when it comes to the tops and the bottoms. And the reason why I say that is because once you've taped it and you start pulling it tight, you'll notice how it kind of gets wavy up here, starts to ruffle up here. Like this side is more smooth, but that side ruffles. So what I like to do is once I have that, I just simply go around and I fold it. I don't do like this going around the top. I simply fold it inward because I want it to lay flat on the top, so that way it's like that. If you go around, if you just like push it down going around like that, sometimes it'll move on you, and that's not what we want. And then that it'll have like gaps up here to where air can get into it. So I just like to do it like this, so that way there's no air gaps up there. So then what I do is, because obviously you can see there's like air bubbles or air gaps up here because of how the paper folds. So what I do is I simply just go around it all the way around the top, and I just push it down. I rub it like upward with my thumb. Rub it upward to rub out any like air that may be there, any creases. Get that all out of there. Try to make it as smooth as you can. Now, again, it may not be perfectly smooth, and that's okay, because your design will still come out great. But as long as you can try to get the actual paper as smooth as you can up against the tumbler itself, you'll be able to see that. And then again, remember, for my actual design, or for my actual wrap and my design, I had that little bit of like 1/8 of an inch of white at the very bottom. So that's pretty much what's up here hanging over, or like right at the very end of it. So you're not even gonna, it's not gonna affect it anyway, because it's just white there, and obviously white doesn't sublimate, so you don't have to worry about that. If you see any creases in your paper, simply just use your nail. Again, you don't necessarily want to scratch it, but you do want to try to rub it out. especially where you know there's a design at. Rub that out, and then you're good to go on that side. And then you want to flip it over and do the same with the top. So pull out your piece of tape, and again, my overlap is going this way, so I am going to start it going this way. And I always find that at the bottom, you tend to get more creases in your tape than you do at the top. But like I said, that's okay because it doesn't really affect it at the bottom as much if you have those creases at the top, because the way in which I do mine, where I have that extra piece hanging out at the bottom, it doesn't sublimate there anyways. So what I noticed here, like I said, I started to rub around, and this is an example how it didn't completely go over the cup here and like here. So what I do is, if that ever happens, just take an extra piece of tape and make sure that you leave a good amount hanging over, and then just push that inward. And then you're good to go. And then you want to go around and do the same at the top. Just rub out any air bubbles that you may have. And because I'm at the top, and it's not really like I can rub it out like this, I do go around with at the very top. Because like I said, at the top, you don't tend to get that many creases once you're putting your tape up there. Here's another spot in this. And that's how I tape my tumblers. Hopefully this video helps to answer all your questions as far as how I tape down and around the bottom, how I get it to be flush with the cup, because as you can see now, if you look at it, it's more flush with the actual cup itself, whereas before there were like air bubbles there, whereas now it's not at the top. Now you're gonna notice here in the inside that sometimes that lifts up. That is okay, because like I said, I go down and I actually press around the actual top of my tumbler and around the sides, and just make sure, so even though that tape is up, it's still secure enough in there to where it's not going to cause for any ghosting. At least I haven't had any issues with it once I started taping my tumblers this way. So this is how I tape my tumblers. I just simply tape down the seam. Again, you want to rub within that seam with your nail, not necessarily scraper, just lightly rub it. Just make sure that it's flush with the cup down to the end, and then rub it up like this, and make sure you have all creases and everything out. And then at the top, do the same. And that is how I tape my tumbler cups. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead, you just heard my Cricut mug press beep. I'm gonna go ahead and pop this in now, and I'll come back with the results. See you all in a minute. All right, so we are back. Let me go ahead and move my camera down some so you can see. I just took this thing off the heat press, and let's see, the bottom's not hot that much, so that's okay because I let it sit there for a minute. So as you can see, you can kind of tell and see the image through there. So I just wanted to just reveal this. It's not too hot, it is still kind of hot. So I'm looking for my X-Acto knife. So I took like a blade I got from like the Dollar Tree, and one of those these things from Dollar Tree, they came in like a 2-pack. Well, this tip part broke off, and I already had like the little 8 or 10 pack of like the blades. So I just took that and put it on here and kind of put some electrical tape around it, and this thing works just like my X-Acto knife. So another little tidbit. So I am going to go ahead and take this off, and I'm not going to, I don't want to scrape the tumbler because I don't want to mess up the design. So I'm just going to pull just the tape off itself. Excuse me, and then we're going to see. Still kind of hot, just a little bit inside. Okay. Around the bottom, just to see. And this is our reveal. Let's see. I can never get the paper up. Goodness gracious. It's not sticking to it. It's just a matter of it just not allowing me to pick it up. Alright, so this is our first look. Look at that. That is amazing. Oh, who dey? Let's go. I love it. That looks awesome. And as you can tell, looking at this, you can't see where the seam is. There's no ghosting at the top and none at the bottom. So let me get up closer so you all can see. So as you can see, hopefully it focuses on there. There's no ghosting at the top whatsoever. No seam line. No what I call splatter marks. There is like this, but, and then this is another thing I want to point out. Is a lot of people always say, like sometimes their paper will release like this white stuff and then they freak out over it. Go wipe it off. That's all you have to do. Get like a wet rag or just put in some water and it comes literally right off. It does not mess up your design at all. Why does it? I think it's just simply because maybe the paper is just on it really tightly. I don't know. But a lot of times, some people get it all over theirs. Usually I don't get any on mine, but it could have been that I just pulled this one really tight today. And it just released on there. But as you can see now, it's gone. It was like right in this area. And now it's all gone. Because all you have to do is just simply wipe it off. And it did not mess up the design at all. Again, you can't even see where that seam was. If you can see the seam, comment and let me know if you can see the seam. I can't, but yeah. And then here's the bottom. No ghosting at the bottom. See? And it did not sublimate anything at the bottom. It just gave you a full look, a full design. And there you have it. That's how I tape my paper, or I wrap my sublimation paper around here. And then you can see all the ink was released off of here. It's pretty awesome. And then, like I said before, this is where I had like that extra, it was like 1/8 of an inch down here that I didn't cut off. So when I get my, once I print out my picture, again, this is 9.3 wide by 8.2 in height. But you always want to remember to measure your own tumblers, because I've gotten tumblers from a bunch of different vendors in the past. I am now a vendor, so I just use simply my tumblers. But I do get those from overseas. But and usually the person that I get them from overseas is they're always the same size, the 9.3 by 8.2. However, the ones that I've gotten in the past, they varied. It was some were like 8.3 in height, and I would do 8.2, and it'll give me like that little white gap at the bottom because I didn't measure before. So always remember to measure your tumblers because it can vary. But going back to what I was saying, when I print this off, I take my paper cutter that I've showed you before, the one where it lifts up and it goes down like that, or you can just cut by scissors. And all I do is I cut it edge to edge on the actual design on the sides, top and other side. But at the bottom, like I said, I leave about like 1/8 of an inch of the white strip at the bottom, just so that way when I go to wrap it around the bottom, it kind of holds it kind of in place. It helps, I feel like, secure it in place once you put that tape on there, and it kind of folds over the bottom. But then it gives you that flush look at the very end of the tumbler. So that is it, y'all. Hopefully you all enjoyed this video. Hopefully that helped explain exactly how I tape and wrap my tumblers from top to bottom. So stay tuned. If you have not subscribed, be sure to click that subscribe button and hit that bell notification. So when I do post new videos, you'll be the first person notified. All right, yeah. Peace out.